Robert Downey Jr.'s journey isn't your typical Hollywood fairy tale. From barking in cages as a 5-year-old to cashing in $75 million for one movie, his career is a wild mix of chaos, comeback, and cash. Stick around, because what's about to unfold isn't just about fame. It's about the money moves that made RDJ a legend. Before the Marvel Millions and red carpet redemption arcs, Robert Downey Jr.'s first role was a dog. Not a cartoon, not voiceover. A literal man playing a dog in a cage. The movie? Pound, 1970. He was 5 years old. Directed by his father, Robert Downey Sr., the king of underground cinema, it was a weird, trippy satire where people played animals, waiting to be euthanized. Downey Jr. waddled around, barking, completely unaware he was starring in what was basically an avant-garde fever dream. No script, no child actor rules, just chaos on set. And a 5-year-old learning showbiz meant barking on command and pretending to pee on things. Downey Jr. once joked it set the tone for his career. Bizarre beginnings, zero boundaries, and an early taste of being typecast. Just not as a superhero. Yet. Robert Downey Jr.'s first credited adult role came in Baby It's You, 1983. A romantic drama directed by John Sayles. Downey played Stuart, a minor character whose scenes were largely cut from the final film. Despite this, the film marked his transition from child actor to adult roles. The film had a budget of $3 million, but grossed only about $1.9 million, making it a box office disappointment. Downey later joked about the experience, saying his friends called the film Maybe It's You because of his minimal screen time. This early setback didn't deter him. Instead, it became a stepping stone in his journey through Hollywood, leading to more prominent roles in the years that followed. Robert Downey Jr. finally got his first taste of mainstream Hollywood in Firstborn, a gritty family drama where he played a high school burnout named Lee. He wasn't the lead, but he stole scenes with a chaotic energy that felt way too real. Probably because it was. Behind the camera, Downey Jr. was already dabbling in the party lifestyle his character lived on screen. Co-star Sarah Jessica Parker, his girlfriend at the time, later admitted Downey was juggling weed, booze, and hard drugs even back then. Method acting or just foreshadowing? Financially, the movie did okay, grossing $5.6 million against a modest $4 million budget. Not a hit, not a flop, but for Downey, it was a win. Critics called him magnetic, and it proved he could do more than play a weird kid in his dad's films. And with a fresh taste of Hollywood buzz, Downey was ready to level up. His next move? Trade high school trauma for high school comedy alongside Rodney Dangerfield in one of the wildest campus movies ever made. Back to School wasn't just a hit. It was a full-blown box office slam dunk. Downey Jr. played Derek, a rebellious punk with gravity-defying hair and anti-everything energy. The film made $91 million on an $11 million budget, making it one of the biggest comedies of the 80s. Downey was still early in his career, but already stealing attention in a cast full of comedy giants. Rodney Dangerfield was the star, but Downey was the X factor. Half his lines were improvised. His character didn't make sense, and that was the point. On set, he was still partying hard, showing up late, sometimes half-baked, always unpredictable. But the chaos translated into charm. Studios started noticing. This kid was a wild card with serious screen presence. Back to School cemented him as a scene stealer. The paycheck wasn't massive, just low 5 figures. But the cultural cachet? Priceless. This wasn't just a role for Robert Downey Jr. It was a preview of the next decade of his life. In Less Than Zero, he played Julian Wells, a privileged LA kid turned coke-addicted wreck. The performance? Raw, terrifying, and dangerously close to reality. Downey didn't just act the part, he lived it. He later admitted that the film mirrored his real-life spiral so accurately, it blurred fiction and fact. Playing a junkie was like a dress rehearsal, he'd say years later, for my own destruction. But the chaos translated. Critics called his performance haunting and too real to be comfortable. Financially, the film was modest. Less Than Zero pulled in $12.4 million on an $8 million budget. Not a blockbuster, but enough to spark a cult following. And for Downey, it was a career-defining moment. Hollywood now saw him as more than a quirky side character. He could go dark, deep, and devastating. By 1990, Downey had ditched the indie grit and landed a buddy action flick, Air America, opposite none other than Mel Gibson. The setup? 2 rogue pilots flying sketchy CIA ops during the Vietnam War. Explosions, drugs, and shady government deals. Pretty much the full Cold War starter pack. But behind the scenes, the chaos was real. Downey was in the early stages of his addiction spiral. Reports said Downey partied hard in Thailand during the shooting, and his reliability started raising red flags in the industry. The movie itself? A mid-tier mess. It cost a whopping $35 million to make. Massive for the time, but barely scraped past $50 million at the box office. Downey took a credibility hit and a major payday that started to fade into legal fees and rehab costs not long after. Still, Air America marked a shift. Downey was no longer the indie darling. He was now a risk. Talented, yes, but unstable. And Hollywood was watching. But instead of playing it safe, he doubled down and walked straight into Oliver Stone's twisted fever dream. Enter Natural Born Killers, a film that makes Air America look like a Disney ride, directed by Oliver Stone and banned in several countries. This was a brutal, hallucinogenic commentary on media obsession, murder culture, and pure cinematic anarchy. Financially, it was a low-budget gamble. $34 million budget, $110 million global haul. For Downey, a modest paycheck, but a massive street cred boost. He wasn't just the guy from the Brat Pack anymore. He was officially unpredictable, dangerous, and captivating. But that volatility was bleeding off-screen too. Addiction was sinking its claws deeper. And even as Downey racked up critical wins, his personal life was becoming tabloid bait. By 2003, Robert Downey Jr. was radioactive in Hollywood. Arrests, rehab stints, and studio blacklists made him uninsurable. Most directors wouldn't touch him, but Gothica changed that. Barely. He landed the role only because Halle Berry vouched for him. Warner Brothers made her co-sign his behavior. If he relapsed, it was on her. That's how fragile his comeback was. Downey took home just $500,000, a steep fall from his peak. But he showed up, stayed clean, and delivered. Gothica shocked everyone, grossing $141 million worldwide on a $40 million budget. Critics panned it. Didn't matter. The studios noticed one thing. Downey was back, and he didn't burn the set down. After years in the shadows, Gothica 2003 was Downey's cautious return to studio filmmaking. He wasn't back, but he was on his way. Then came the gamble that changed everything. Iron Man 2008 was Marvel's desperate, last-ditch effort to stay alive. And they bet it all on a guy every other studio had blacklisted. Downey brought a decade's worth of demons and charisma to Tony Stark. Most of his dialogue was improvised. That iconic line, "I am Iron Man," unscripted, shot on the last day, and it accidentally rewrote Hollywood history. The film blew past expectations with $585 million worldwide. Downey, who once couldn't get insured for a B movie, was suddenly the centerpiece of a cinematic universe. By 2009, he was cashing in. Sherlock Holmes, directed by Guy Ritchie, reinvented the detective as a brawling, eccentric genius. Critics were mixed, audiences obsessed. The film pulled in $524 million globally, netting Downey a $9 million paycheck and a Golden Globe. Then came Iron Man 2. The budget went up, so did his paycheck. $12 million base, with back-end bonuses pushing it north of $20 million. The movie cracked $623 million, despite a chaotic production and rewrites on the fly. At this point, Downey wasn't acting as Tony Stark, he was Tony Stark. And then, The Avengers, 2012. Marvel's masterstroke. While the rest of the cast took $2 to $6 million deals, Downey negotiated back-end profits like a studio executive. The result? A $50 million payday off a film that grossed $1.5 billion. In just 4 years, he'd gone from rehabbed liability to the highest paid actor in the world and the iron heartbeat of a cultural empire. After The Avengers turned him into the king of the box office, Downey didn't just return for a sequel. He returned with leverage. Iron Man 3, 2013, wasn't just another Marvel flick. It was his victory lap. With a reported $20 million up front and a massive cut of the film's profits, Downey walked away with a staggering $75 million. The biggest paycheck of his entire career. The movie itself, a risky pivot. Tony Stark spent most of the film out of the suit, battling PTSD and rogue AI with a toolbox and anxiety attacks. Less superhero, more survivalist. But it worked. The film soared past the $1 billion mark, raking in $1.2 billion worldwide. Critics were divided. Fans were loud. Downey laughing all the way to the bank. And with the biggest solo superhero haul in history, Marvel knew one thing: they weren't running the show. He was. Want more behind-the-scenes chaos and insane paychecks? Hit subscribe and drop a comment with your favorite RDJ role or what movie you want us to cover next. You decide. We dig up the chaos.